Looting is one of the most overlooked parts of the average Apex player experience, yet such a deciding factor to one's success. Many players waste tons of time deciding on what they want, and an extreme amount spends too long in the box getting themselves caught and killed, when all they need is less than 2 seconds. With this looting guide, I'm going to show you how to loot efficiently and how to loot fast to become a speed looter in Apex Legends. The art of speed looting can be broken down into 3 separate parts. There's knowledge and prediction, practice and hand-to-eye coordination, and then there's reaction. A skilled looter relies on the combination of all 3, but very rarely has to be reactive in the looting, as they know what they want and they know where to get it. Once you have mastered all 3 parts, you too can become a lightning speed loot goblin. This guide will generally focus on going through death boxes, but there's some knowledge relevant to looting in general. If you guys want a guide on looting ground loot across the Apex world, let me know. Before narrowing down into these 3 steps, there's a few things that I would like to mention. These aren't related to fast looting per se, but they make it hell of a lot easier. First off, never stand still when looting. If you are watching this guide as a controller player, you're in a bit of a pickle, but try to only loot when in cover or when you feel that you have the space to stand still. If you are on mouse and keyboard, randomly pressing your strafe keys, tossing in a jump or a crouch will keep you at full health, even if someone starts shooting at you. On PC, if you hear someone moving up or you start taking damage, you can quickly close the looting window by pressing the tab key. I think this is doable on controller, but I don't know the exact bind. Another PC-specific setting is the enhanced pointer precision in the Windows settings. Keeping this enabled will give you sort of an aim acceleration, which means that your sensitivity will be slower when you're moving your mouse in a slower speed and higher when you're quickly moving your mouse across the pad. For consistency, you always want to keep this off. And finally, the next setting is a setting that makes or breaks your looting. This is called Taking Damage Closest Death Box. This amazing setting was added in late 2019 and, as suggested, stops you from closing the loot or crafting window when you take damage. This is enabled by default and you want to disable it. The extra damage you may take from the additional time in the box is worth it for the option of a shield swap, and you are prone to be more reactive if someone starts shooting at you. Let's start with the most crucial part, the knowledge. More than half of efficient and most important lightning speed looting boils down to knowledge. Knowing what loot you want and what loot you need will train your brain to look for those specific items among the mess of the enemy's inventory. You want to know just how many heals you want, how much ammunition you want, grenades, and of course attachments. As far as attachment goes, the game does a good job of keeping your memory fresh on what attachments you actually are looking for. You can at any time in the game look down in the bottom right to see what attachments you have, and most importantly, that you don't. As such, there is no crutch helping you to loot or manage your inventory in a fast way, giving you the freedom to carry what you want, but at the same time leading to long processing time as you try to figure out what you actually want to carry. You can cut down on looting time significantly by keeping a mental note of what you have in your inventory. Usually you want your inventory to look something like this with no backpack, like this with a white backpack, like this with a blue backpack, and finally like this with a purple or gold. If something is missing, you know what to look out for when you're rummaging through a death box. Some players, like Imperial Hal, like to keep their inventory empty as not to break the ratio with too much of one thing, and some players, like myself, fill up on useless stuff just in case we need it. But ultimately, we all lean towards the same ratios. In addition to these models, you usually want 1 to 2 stacks of single fire weapon ammo and about 2 to 4 stacks of automatic weapon ammo. If you plan to poke a lot, add extra ammo at the expense of grenades. Reflect on how many resources that you burn through to figure out just how much resources you personally need. As for attachments, when looting a death box, the game actually helps you out even farther, crossing out attachments that you either have the same of or are better, sort of highlighting attachments that you immediately can use on your own weapons. That means that you can clear a death box from attachments super fast because you know what you have and what you need from the constant reminder on the screen, and when you jump into the box, the game practically already tells you what you need to pick up. Attachments are always at the bottom of the boxes, so you always know where to look. In addition to attachments, the game also assists you in shield swaps. You know the thing where you jump into a box and instantly switch armor to the fresh one on your fallen foe? That one. You probably thought this would be later in the guide, and you're probably right. But an armor is almost always in the same spot when you loot a death box, and as long as the armor on the box has a higher shield charge or a higher rarity than your own, you can instantly swap it with your own by clicking the place that it always appears on. Remember that as long as you have pressure from enemies, shield swapping will be worth it. Given the situation, swapping a mostly empty red armor for a white might actually be a good idea just so you can get back into the fight and assist your teammates faster, instead of hiding away popping a shield battery for over 5 seconds. That brings us to the second part of speed looting, prediction. With our knowledge on where things are supposed to be, we should be able to predict what we need to do and what sequence of inputs that we need to do in order to quickly clear a death box for what we need. After memorizing where things appear, we can start practicing. The first and most important part of predicting your inputs is knowing where the mouse starts, because this is where the whole series begins. On PC, your cursor will always start in the middle of the screen. This means that you have a specific flick of your wrist to quickly move the cursor from the middle onto an armor and hot swap. Other items usually have different predictions, but unless you're quickly armor swapping and nothing else, odds are you're going through the whole box anyways. This means that the second thing you want to do after swapping an armor is glancing over the item icons. Any icons that are crossed out can quickly be disregarded. Any attachments that aren't crossed out can quickly be picked up, so you can turn your attention back to the actual inventory. You should already know what type of items that you are looking for, so grabbing those should be straightforward as well. As far as death box mechanics go, when you pick up an item out of a box, all the items underneath it will pop upwards and the item below will take its place. This means that in the event of you looting a box which is filled with items that you can use, you can just keep clicking in the same spot to clear the inventory at lightning speeds. Prediction only goes so far if you like the mechanical skill and consistency to pull it off without failure. So here's a few things that you can do to perfect this. Now the simplest but least effective way is to simply loot a lot of boxes, trying to empty them as fast as possible and challenging yourself. The more efficient and honestly easier way is making sure that your sensitivity is about the same on a 2D plane as a 3D plane in game, meaning that a 180 mouse swipe should be about the same movement as the horizontal distance between the edges of your monitor. This makes the muscle memory more straightforward. You can also choose to improve your 2D mouse control and coordination using aim chaining applications such as the website aimchainer.io or the rhythm game Osu. And lastly, we have the reactionary part of lightning speed aiming. You may have noticed some overlap between prediction and reaction, so I'm going to keep this short. Reaction time and reaction effectiveness is unique per person, but can be improved with mental and physical health, nutrition, and exercise. Aim trainers also make a good job of training your hand-to-eye coordination and bringing your reaction time down. The biggest secret to reacting fast is minimizing how many factors you need to react to. It's easy to click a square once it turns green, or well, at least a lot easier than positioning yourself, aiming in the general area the square will show up at, flicking at it, and then clicking the square. This is where knowledge and prediction ties in. You know what you need and you know where it will be. This means that you don't need to spend as much time reacting to things and instead can fall back on your trained methods. That being said, some things are random enough that they require you to both think and react. Items such as vault keys change where the armor appears in the loot menu, and the order of someone's inventory completely depends on what items they have. When it comes to attachments, you can predict that there will be attachments to click, but you have to react to what's actually available. Becoming a speed looter takes very little actual practice and mostly preparation, so I'm sure that you will improve just by watching this guide and adjusting your playstyle accordingly. If you have teammates who loot way too long, make sure to show them this video so you can move faster as a team. Your win rate will thank you. If you want to check out when I use these tips to quickly loot, I suggest you check out when I tried out Imperial Health sensitivity for 24 hours. That's available on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.